Off the Hook, airing on offthehooksports.com. Your home for real news, real opinions, and what really matters about Tennessee athletics. The Off the Hook podcast at offthehooksports.com or Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or wherever you go for your favorite podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, iHeart. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Off the Hook with Dave Hooker starts now.
Off and rolling preseason camp, and nobody loves preseason camp like John Adams. I remind you that you must hit that subscribe button and like right there, and you will get more content from Off the Hook Sports, Vols Automotive Group, and Big Orange Phillies. And we're talking about the Vols, and it is football season. So like and subscribe. Set the notifications on too, so you know we've got new stuff up. John's one of the most popular video views on our YouTube channel. He just ranks right up there with like Beyonce. I probably dated myself. I tell you who's dating themselves. It's because they go back in the day to integrity, when integrity mattered. That's Vols Automotive Group. Vols Automotive Group right there on Callahan has the service department to take care of you, but they've got selections. So you can pick what you want, and that's difficult nowadays. But it's really all about integrity at its core. That's Vols Automotive Group in Callahan. I'll tell you about Big Orange Phillies here momentarily. But first, John Adams, how are you, sir?
Doing well, Dave. Excited that the Vols are going through preseason practice. It's even more exciting to me than spring practice.
It is more exciting to me than spring practice because it always seemed like half the guys were held out of spring camp. There were some years that I wasn't even sure that I should be there, that I felt like I could, be calling prospects, family members, and getting quotes that way. But this preseason camp, from what I'm hearing, and I want to get into how we overreact to things because we do, but I have yet to find anybody, and I had with previous coaches, I've yet to find anybody that has anything negative to say about chemistry. I know this is early and things can happen, but it does seem like Tennessee has a good foundation laid at the very least.
Dave, as a new season approaches, we are in an opening of new camp and players are made available to interviews. We always hear in preseason how close-knit this team is.
That is true.
There are no cliques on this team. It's everybody doing everything together. I mean, you just imagine 85 people go into a movie together. Or 85 people, playing video games together. It's one big, giant, happy family. Of course, then maybe the next spring you'll hear that, last year's team didn't really have great team chemistry. It's funny. It's funny. Yes, it's funny how that works. And the other thing we always hear is the off-season conditioning program was just amazing this year.
Golden.
Different than ever before. And I don't know how much different you can be with strength and conditioning, but there's always a difference. I mean, and you hear it invariably. Yeah. And so the team has great chemistry. They're in great condition, and they're going to prove people wrong if those people didn't think they were going to be really good.
Yeah. You could say that about almost any camp, even throw Auburn in that mix, who I think is going to be one of the worst teams in the SEC. They're probably saying that there. But with Tennessee, I do think there is reason for optimism. Just when I, look at this roster, I mean, you've got 6 linebackers that are seniors. You've got depth on an offensive line that had 0 last year. It's just looking at the roster, not just blow sunshine, but I do think this is a much better roster now than it was a year ago.
Well, also, we've gone through the transitional phase. Tennessee was so good offensively last year, you forget that you had a new coach, a new staff, and a completely different offensive system, and kind of an extreme offensive system with the ultra up-tempo offense that Josh Heupel runs and all those scripted plays that work so well to start games. So it just stands to reason. I don't think this is being overly optimistic about Tennessee's fortunes, but just through the natural progression, they go into this season knowing the system, knowing the coaches, and you almost have to be better than you were last year. Couple that with the fact is you've got a more talented roster. So even where there are concerns on defense, and those concerns are very valid, you do have some guys that have gone through the SEC wars together, and that does make a difference.
John, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second and just get your take. I'm going to throw something out there that I don't believe, but I know that some people in the SEC believe this, so I'm going to throw it at you. First, remind you, it's brought to you by Big Orange Phillies. Big Orange Phillies in the heart of Halls. Both John and I are North Knoxville peeps, so you got to get to Big Orange Phillies for great food, great entertainment. They've got karaoke, billiards. They've got it all right there. Big Orange Phillies on Maynardville Pike. It's in the heart of Halls, easy to get to from Maynardville, North Knoxville. All right, so let me play devil's advocate. I do not believe this, but I'm going to throw it at you. Josh Heupel's offense is the fastest in the nation, which that is factual. So this is a gimmick offense, much like how Mummy and SEC defensive coordinators will catch up to it, if not in 2022, then very soon. What would you say to somebody that said that to you?
Well, I'll go big picture here. The offense in college football, the offenses are way ahead of the defenses. And this has been going on for a while. It didn't happen overnight, but all the rules passed in college football have favored the offense. So it's not just at Tennessee. It's pretty much everywhere. And when you talk about catching up, well, yeah, that sounds good. And we always talk about things go in cycles. The offense will be ahead of the defense will be ahead of the offense, and they keep cycling. But this is a long-standing trend, and not just with Tennessee. Ole Miss runs a very similar offense. You look at with up-tempo stuff, up-tempo offenses are successful now. So I think teams will look harder at what Tennessee does, but I don't know what they can necessarily do about it, because it's not just because Tennessee's going fast that it's getting receivers open. I think Josh Heupel is an exceptional offensive strategist, and I think he knows how to spot weaknesses in a secondary and what receivers will be open on a certain play. So teams might be more familiar with what Tennessee does, but I don't know that they can slow Tennessee down. I really don't, unless they flop a lot more.
Yeah, and well, let's talk about the flopping. That happened with the Ole Miss game last year, and there's just no way Lane Kiffin was going to come back to town and not have some sort of drama and theatrics around him. But the flopping issue is I've got an answer, whether or not it's right, for almost every problem with college athletics. It may not be right, but I've got the answer. I have zero answer for the flopping thing. I don't know how you tell a young man that if you miss this play, you're going to be out the rest of the drive or the rest of the quarter or whatever it is. Then he forces himself back into a game when he probably shouldn't, or he doesn't leave a game when he should. I don't know how to fix that one, John. I'm just curious if you've got any ideas. It wasn't where I intended to go today, but I don't know how you fix that.
No, I think you would. How do you try to fix most things? You do it with a rule. And although you say that's not a best case scenario to force a guy to play even when he's hurt, that to me would be the best option for trying. I don't think it's fair to teams when teams fake injuries. It's just not fair. So if there's a penalty, I dread the idea of giving officials another judgment call to make, because officials can't get pass interference right. Officials can't get targeting right, and those have extreme impacts on a game and the outcome. So I guess I'm in a roundabout way. I'm saying the same thing you are. I don't know what to do about it, but I do know that Tennessee average, flopping aside, Tennessee averaged 39.3 points a game with a new offensive system, with a modestly talented offense. So I expect over 40 this year, flopping included.
40 flops a game, 40 points a game. The 40-40 club. Yeah. So it's like Jose, it's the Jose Canseco approach. The 40-40 club. Yeah. That Jose Canseco was really fast for a big guy. I wonder what he was doing. Anyway,
Gosh, I just think it was natural, Dave.
yeah. Yeah, it was all natural.
Yeah.
There was nothing wrong whatsoever. But it when I look at the flopping issue, I think it does just kind of come down to integrity. I'm not throwing Lane under the bus, not that he would ever lack integrity. However, I do think the integrity of the program and the integrity of the player are the only things that can actually fix this. You have to have integrity, like Viles Automotive Group, John.
Well, you can trust on Viles Automotive Group for that, but you can't trust college football coaches for that. You know that, even as you say that. That is a wildly optimistic. That's basically an impossibility. And keep in mind, Lane Kiffin's players flopping. Lane knows that works because teams have flopped against him. I mean, they're keeling over like they've been shot by a sniper because it works, and he knows that. He runs an up-tempo offense too. So it's just going to be something we have to deal with. And again, look at the targeting rule. To me, the targeting rule is one of the worst things ever to happen to college football from a standpoint of fair play. And I know nobody wants to see anybody get hurt. So the intent behind it is great. However, there's just no way to legislate that. And you see it. We both watch our college football, a lot of college football, and we see right out of the textbook, right out of the seminar plays, well, that's targeting. That fits every one of the criteria for targeting. And it's like, no, I didn't see that one. And the game goes on. I mean, it might be Arkansas State playing Central Michigan, and nobody really cares about the impact. But I just see this happen repeatedly, and I see it happen in the SEC as well.
Yeah, I do too. And I'm, with the flopping thing, I look at it to some extent as kind of like Bounty Gate with the Saints. It's going to take somebody really, it's going to take somebody's going to have to talk, right? And I can't remember the genesis of how that news got out, to be real frank with you. But some player probably told somebody, and then it got out, and then it became a big thing, and the NFL overreacted, as they're apt to do. But unless a player says, Lane Kiffin and the coaches said, or any other coach said, I got to flop at certain times, or when he touches his headset, that means I got to go down, then I don't know. I don't know how you get around that at all. I don't see it.
No, and here's the thing. It's not always a coach ordering it from the sidelines. I mean, players are clever enough to realize, man, these guys are rolling and we can't stop them. We can't even get lined up, and they got 3 receivers open on every play. I'm slowing this thing down. I just pull my hamstring and I'm going down, and boom, he's on the ground.
I will share this with you. So I was talking with a player off the record, and so sometimes we make these things more complicated than they are, like adding edge instead of linebacker / defensive end. I think we all knew what that was before. So, but this player said, so I think we make things too complicated. And I said, yeah, and whatever happened with that, Lane Kiffin game, I was just in passing, mentioned it in a comment. Mm-hmm. What did he say? Well, you know what happened, don't you? I said, well, I mean, I didn't want to, really ask you and put you on the spot. He goes, well, of course they were flopping. Okay. Well, I mean, it is so evident to players. Players know before the media, before the fans, and there was no question in their mind that was happening. It's beyond speculation at this point. It wasn't bad timing. It wasn't coincidence. They were really flopping.
Yeah, and again, I go back to the fact that they were flopping basically against the same kind of offense Ole Miss wants to run. And so they know this is what's necessary. You do what's necessary. You're trying to win the game. You're not taking an integrity test out there. You look at the scoreboard, and that tells you all you need to know. And I think we're going to see. I wonder if we'll see even more of that because speaking in Tennessee terms right now, I just think this offense is going to be incredibly dynamic, even more so than last year. Because remember, at this time last year, we thought Joe Milton would be the quarterback. We didn't know it would be Hendon Hooker. We didn't know exactly what the offense would look like. We didn't know that Cedric Tillman would be an offense all SEC receiver. And now going ahead with 8 returning starters and a few additions, I think you'll see more points and more flopping.
You probably will. They're going to have to do something. They've waited this offseason. They haven't done anything. They're not going to do anything before the season starts. So we'd be looking at next year before any legislation's actually put into place. With Tennessee and Joe Milton, I know that their coaches have said, Tennessee's coaches have said, working with him on accuracy. Your thoughts on this? I believe that accuracy to some extent is innate. I believe being Steph Curry and shooting a three-pointer like he does is to some extent innate. Much like in the weight room. I think you can go from 200 pounds to 300 pounds benching. I think you can go from good to better. But I don't know that you can ever be elite. I'm not trying to throw Joe Milton under the bus, but if he's the backup and Tennessee has to go in that direction, I still have very serious accuracy concerns because you can work on that all day long. But the bottom line is he's just not very accurate.
No, it's just like human behavior. You might not can completely change your core, but you can modify your behavior. And so Joe Milton might can get a little more accurate, right, but he's not going to be Aaron Rodgers. He's not going to be able to hit a receiver on the dead run. And see, I have more questions about him other than his accuracy. I mean, when he ran out of bounds against Ole Miss on the last play of the game last year, if I'm the coach, sorry, maybe a great guy, but I can't entrust a game to him anymore because that's not practice. You don't improve that with practice. That's decision making in the heat of battle. And I just don't think he had that. I mean, you look at Joe Milton. I think they need to get Tavian Jackson, the freshman, ready to be a quarterback in case Hendon Hooker goes down. Joe Milton, he had the starting job at Michigan. It's his job. He lost it. Had the starting job at Tennessee. His job. He lost it. I mean, I think it's nice. It's a good story that he came back and he's big buddies with Hendon Hooker. But the idea of him winning a meaningful SEC game, on what basis do you have for that projection? I just think I would want to get the other quarterback ready because I know what Joe Milton can and can't do.
I tend to agree with that. And I hate it for the young man, but we are where we are. So with Tennessee moving forward, and if they were to go with Tavian Jackson, either way, you're talking about a way different season that's probably gone off the rails. So the key is Hendon Hooker needs to stay healthy, right?
Yeah, but I will say this about Josh Heupel's offense seems to make everybody better.
Well, that's true.
I mean, go back to when he was an offensive coordinator at Missouri and they had several running backs. Wherever he's been, he's usually had a running back group, as we call it, a running back by committee. A lot of guys contributed. But I go back and not picking on one guy. Well, yeah, I am picking on one guy. How many people remember that Ish Witter was a 1,000-yard rusher?
I don't. Ish Witter.
Yeah. Ish Witter.
Who is Ish Witter? Who's Ish Witter?
He was a running back from Missouri when Josh Heupel was the offensive coordinator. and he gained over 1,000
Ah.
yards. And even one of his own receivers, who was answering questions about how dynamic Heupel's offense was, he said, "Well, yeah, well, we had, I mean, Ish Witter, hard to say, Ish Witter,
It's very almost like Ia Amuleva.
I know, you want to say Wish Itter instead of Ish Witter, but the wide receiver said, "Well, yeah, I mean, look how dynamic even Ish Witter rushed for 1,000 yards."
Okay.
So I don't know. Yeah, you dread the thought of losing Hendon Hooker, but I will say this offense has worked, and it's worked not just at Tennessee, but it worked at UCF when Heupel was the head coach there, and it worked at Missouri when he was the offensive coordinator.
No, it certainly did, and I'm going to ask you to pronounce Nico's last name after I tell you about big. I don't know if John's got it or not. He gave me a look, so he's either got it for sure or he is going to struggle, and he knows it. I'm betting he's got it. Big Orange Phillies has got it. Got great food, got a great environment, things to do like karaoke, darts, billiards. They've got it all at Big Orange Phillies on Maynardville Pike, in the heart of Halls. Can you pronounce Nico's last name?
Nico Iamaleava.
That's perfect. Look at you.
Well, okay. You know how I guess the pronunciation comes, and I really got lucky on that. I can spell it.
Yeah. Oh, and it's easy to spell.
I thought, I'm going to have to look at this name in a book on the website every time I write it. I just say it. I just am. And then I broke it down, into what if Nico decides to leave? I mean, he's just committed. He hasn't even signed. So I broke it down into I am a Leva.
Yeah, but I don't think you're pronouncing it right. Try it one more time.
Iamaleava?
Yeah. You got it down, but you got the "muh" in there. I don't see how you
but see, in spelling it, I was doing it more phonetically, and that's why I said Leva. You see, because you spell it and it looks like Leva, and if he does in fact leave, it's a big deal. So I was able to learn to spell it that way.
Good job. I know you covered the Steelers. I know you've covered a lot of things. What was your first year covering college football?
Well, I mean, I can go back to the Reveille, the school paper at LSU in 1968.
Okay.
Had some pretty good players. Tommy Casanova was a freshman. I actually went to all the freshman games, home and away, for the school paper, and that was when freshmen couldn't play. Had a cornerback named Tommy Casanova that was a two-time All-American.
Interesting.
Yes.
It's a long way of me getting to the point where I ask you a question.
Okay.
And that is, if I would have told you your first year covering college football that a player would leave a national championship winning program after 4 years, go to Morgantown, West Virginia, and participate in spring practice, and then decide to enter the transfer portal and decide on his school after practice had already started, and just shows up, I guess, with his shoulder pads ready to roll, as is happening right now with a running back that's transferring from West Virginia. How would you have responded if I told you that just happened? This guy's coming to LSU.
I would have done the same thing I did when I read this week. I would have laughed.
About Lynn J. Dixon, by the way. It was
Lynn J. Dixon. It's the name's kind of tricky. I don't know.
How about this as a catchphrase? Lynn J. Dixon, easy to pronounce, tough to retain.
Do you think most West Virginia fans ever knew he was there?
I don't know.
Do you think? I think there's more chance that people know Ish Witter rushed for over 1,000 yards than know that Lynn J. Dixon played at West Virginia. Did he actually play?
Two seashells by the seashore. You don't have to worry about phonetics of Viles Automotive Group because integrity is easy to say. Viles Automotive Group right there on Callahan. We love visiting with John. We love Viles Automotive Group and love the fact that also Big Orange Phillies is a great place to hang out. So thank you, Mr. Viles, and we will talk to John Adams next week, where I'm guessing the offense or the defense will be ahead of the other in preseason camp.
But team chemistry will be as great as ever.
And it will be the best offseason workout in the history of man.
No
this is a production of Off the Hook Sports.